Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Carolyn and I'm abnormal. And I like to talk about abnormal things. This channel is all about true crime, mystery, and conspiracy theories, or anything else abnormal. And today we're talking about a real sicko, Steven Pladl. Have you heard of him? If you haven't, buckle up because we're going on a wild ride. Steven Pladl was born in 1975 in New York, and he was described as a child as a loner, a weirdo, strange, all of those types of things. And I hate referring to people as weird because I'm weird. So I don't like using the word like weird or strange to describe people. In his case, calling him weird and strange is another level, not a good level. He mostly hung out by himself as a child. He didn't have a lot of friends, and he didn't seem to have a lot of interest in making friends. Kids that he had gone to school with said at recess he would just hang out by himself. He would also wear the exact same jersey every single day to school. And I don't know if maybe he didn't have a lot of clothes and that's why he was wearing it, or if he was just wearing it every day because he liked it. I don't know, but that's one little tidbit I found interesting. So every day, Steven Pladl showing up to school, exact same jersey, no interest in talking to anyone, and just basically wanted to be left alone in his weird little way. When Steven got a little bit older, he discovered the World Wide Web. And boy, did he like it. He loved the internet. He could go on the internet and find people just like him. And you'll find out what just like him means further in the video. But he would go on chat rooms and chat to different people. In 1995, in one of these chat rooms, he met a girl, and I mean girl, she was only 15 at the time, named Alyssa. And Steven was 20 at the time. So 20-year-old and a 15-year-old is very problematic. In interviews that I've seen with Alyssa, it seems very clear that Steven started grooming her from the moment they started talking. And Alyssa thought she was in love. She thought she was absolutely in love with Steven, and she absolutely thought Steven was in love with her. In 1995, not long after they had started chatting, Steven, who lived in New York, and Alyssa, who lived in Texas, decided to meet up, and Steven drove from New York to Texas to meet Alyssa. This is when Alyssa decided to run away from home and go and live with Steven. And I think her parents at the time didn't really think that they had a lot of choice. And Alyssa soon became pregnant. In 1998, she became pregnant with a little girl. She gave birth and they named the baby Denise. And Alyssa thought this was going to be the beginning of an absolutely amazing life with Steven and their new daughter, Alyssa. But very quickly after Denise was born, Steven's dark side started to show. The way his dark side came out was he started abusing Denise. He would pinch her and very hardly, and she had all these black and blue marks all over her body. And he also became very annoyed when Denise, a baby, started crying. He did not like when Denise cried. I'm not sure what he expected when he had a baby, because anyone with a brain cell knows if you're going to have a baby, they're going to cry. But it irritated Steven so much to the point that when Denise would cry, he would lock her in a cooler and he would leave her in there for quite a long time. And Alyssa has said that he would always let her out at like the last minute when she would be running out of air in this cooler. And it became very clear to Alyssa that she needed to protect her daughter. Alyssa made the best decision possible for baby Denise, and she decided to give her up for adoption. She didn't believe that Steven would change. She didn't believe that he would ever stop abusing her. And unfortunately, I think at this point, she was so brainwashed by Steven, whom she had been groomed by since she was 15 years old, she couldn't leave. He had threatened her that if she did leave him, he would unalive himself, take a video of him doing that, and he would send the video to Alyssa so she could watch it over and over, and it would be this painful thing for the rest of her life. When I heard this, my first question was, okay, if you're gonna do this, how are you gonna send the video? Like, how do you put out the video? How do you send her the video after that's happened? I mean, that's definitely not important in this story at all. You'll notice I get hung up on little things. And it's just like, Carolyn, no one cares. Just move on with the story. So that's what I'm going to do. And I really feel like that was a very mature decision for a 17-year-old to make. And I have to say, Alyssa, she was as much Steven's victim as anyone else. And it was amazing that she did that, because I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't have. And I really feel like Alyssa, she was doing the best she could. She was doing everything in her power to protect her daughter. Denise was adopted by parents Tony and Kelly. And when they adopted Denise, they changed her name to Katie. So for the rest of the story, I'll be referring to her as Katie. And Katie had a very good childhood and a very good life with her adopted family. She was living in Dover, about 130 kilometers away from New York City. She seemed to grow up very happy. Her adoptive parents also had another daughter. She was very close with her sister. She was very artistic, and she seemed to have a very good, healthy childhood. She ended up with parents who loved her very much and parents that she loved very much. And she got the family that she so deserved. And Katie's uncle said that they lived a very normal life. And Katie was nicknamed Pac-Man because she would eat so much. She was always eating. So her nickname as a kid was Pac-Man. She loved animals. She was a vegetarian, and she was very creative and very artistic. Katie was an aspiring artist, and she was very well known in her Dover high school for the comic strips that she drew. Apparently she was very, very talented at this, and a lot of the other kids and teachers had a lot of interest in it because she was so talented. She really was artistic, and she really could have gone on to have quite an amazing career as an artist. Her talent definitely shone through everything she did. She planned to attend college to pursue a career in digital advertising. And in a blog that she wrote, "A pen and something to draw on became a safe place for me." She also wrote in her blog, "Ink became a weapon against rules and regulations. To be short, for me, a life without art is no life at all." And that's very much an artist statement to make. After turning 18 in January, Katie knew her life, through her life, that she had been adopted. But when she turned 18, she decided that she wanted to find her birth parents. And that's exactly what she did. And when she contacted the Pladls, they were very excited and really looking forward to reuniting with her. And then Katie eventually decided that she didn't want to go to college anymore. She wanted to go and live with her birth parents. And Katie had no idea before she moved in with Steven and Alyssa Pladl that Steven was very abusive, had a horrible temper, just was not a good man. He was just not, he was violent, he was very unpredictable, and Katie knew nothing of this when she decided to move in with them. And Katie's adoptive parents were very apprehensive about her moving in with Steven and Alyssa, but they felt like she was 18 and this was her decision to make, and they were going to support her in this decision and let her know that they would always be there for her. And she went ahead and moved in with the Pladls. Before Katie moved in, Alyssa and Steven had already decided that they were going to separate, and they were sleeping in separate bedrooms. Alyssa said she had suffered a lot of emotional abuse for years from her husband. And she was quoted as saying, "I was always on eggshells. Whatever his mood, everyone knew. And that mood was often not happy. A lot of yelling, a lot of things being smashed in the house in front of the children." And Alyssa did explain to Katie that that was the reason she was given up for adoption. She did tell her that she had loved her very much and wanted to keep her, but she felt the only way she could keep her safe was to give her up for adoption because she wanted Katie to have a good family. She wanted her to have a good, happy life. And Katie was kind of didn't have a reaction at all. And Alyssa found it strange that she didn't react in really any way. And that was kind of the end of the discussion. Steven Pladl's behavior began to change when Katie moved into the home. He started growing his hair out long, wearing skinny jeans because he thought it made him look younger. He was just basically trying to appear younger than he was. And Alyssa kind of thought that he was trying to impress Katie. And it's like, I don't know, like, I don't want to be judgmental, but a man in his 40s rocking skinny jeans, like, I don't think you're impressing anyone. But this is what he did. After about 6 weeks of Katie moving into the home, Steven decided to sleep on the floor of Katie's bedroom. And this is something that immediately concerned Alyssa very much. And when he did it again the next night, she confronted him about it. And when she did confront him about it, he just said it was none of her business, and he stormed out of the house with Katie by his side. Alyssa finally moved out in November 2016 and took their 2 young daughters. And Alyssa didn't want to leave Katie behind, but Katie wanted to stay behind. Katie wanted to be with Steven. In May 2017, Alyssa started reading one of her younger daughter's journals. She had been concerned with what was going on at the home with Steven and Katie. She didn't know what was going on, but she definitely knew something wasn't right. And when she started reading her daughter's journal, it became extremely clear that Steven and Katie were having a sexual relationship. And as she was reading her younger daughter's journal, who was only 11, the daughter was writing things like, "Dad says that Katie's my stepmom, but she's my sister. So is Katie my sister or is she my stepmom?" She also questioned Katie's belly's getting really big. Did my dad get Katie pregnant? She would ask, and she was obviously extremely confused. She's 11 years old and she doesn't understand what's going on. And hell, no one knows what the hell's going on. And she would constantly kind of in her diary be trying to figure out, is Katie my sister or is Katie my stepmother? Like, she went back and forth with it. And I can't imagine an 11-year-old trying to process that and figure that out in her own head. But thankfully, Alyssa read her diaries, so she was able to learn this information, even though unfortunately, Alyssa learning this information didn't make anything any better. And Alyssa was furious, and she contacted Steven and confronted him about the relationship. And Steven's response was, "I thought you knew. I thought you knew that we were in love." And he's talking about his own daughter, his own biological daughter. He is saying the two of them are in love and they're having a baby. So he's having a child and a grandchild, and Katie's having her, well, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl at this point. He's having a daughter who also is her sister. Like, that is a different kind of sick. And I have heard before about, I don't know what they call it, but it's something where people who are biologically related, if they grow up not knowing each other, sometimes as adults they'll meet and they have like a sexual attraction to each other. But in this situation, people also then say, hold up, like, we're related. So it never goes further than that. But it is something that does happen when people who are biologically related end up meeting as adults, that can occur. And I don't know. Like, if I met someone, and I don't care if I fell in love with them, they were the most amazing person in the world, I wanted to spend my life with them. If you tell me he's my bro, I'm saying no, no, no. Like, hell no. I got to go. So I don't know, but it's a thing, a weird thing. But yeah, so dad and daughter are lovers, having a baby. And Alyssa called the police, like she should. She called the police and said, they're in an incestuous relationship. My ex-husband, I don't know if he was her ex-husband or just separated husband at the time, is having a sexual relationship with his biological daughter. And on July 20th, 2017, after Alyssa and Steven's divorce was finalized, Katie and Steven got married. And how they were able to get married, because obviously you can't marry a biological relative. As far as I know, I mean, I hope to hell not, but so they lied on their application and just said they weren't related. I had no idea. I've never been married. I had no idea that one of the questions when you applied to get married is, are you related to the person you're marrying? Like, it's almost frightening to me that that has to be asked, but they just lied and said they weren't. So they were able to get married. And on Katie and Steven's wedding day, Steven's mother and Katie's grandmother attended, as well as Katie's adoptive parents. And Katie's adoptive parents went to the wedding. And it's hard not to judge. But I think in their situation, I don't think that they did support the marriage. I don't know, but I hope that they didn't really support the marriage. I think they probably felt like, if we freak out and, you know, try to talk her out of this marriage or try to get her away from Steven, I think they were afraid of losing her. I think they were just afraid she would cut off contact with them and then she would just be left alone with Steven. But I still don't know. Being able to go to a wedding with a dad and a daughter, and like, who walked her down the aisle? Because she's marrying her dad. I don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of questions and not a lot of answers on that one. But they got married. And Katie at the wedding was very pregnant. Very, very pregnant. She was ready to pop. And on July 1st, she gave birth to their son, Bennett. Now, Bennett is Katie's son and Katie's brother. And Bennett is Steven's son and grandson. And not long after, they were arrested on incest charges because obviously it's illegal. The judge ordered them to have no contact with each other, and Steven's mother was given custody of Bennett. I find it a really strange choice to give the baby to Steven's mother. I don't know if that's just me, but if you have a man who has abused his children while they were children, married one of his children when they were an adult, is his mother the best person to give the child to? I mean, I don't know if Katie's adoptive parents wanted him, or I don't know the details of the situation. But by Steven's mother having Bennett, although he was not allowed, Steven still saw the baby. So really, they were just keeping Katie, who is the victim in this situation, away from her own son and her brother. Steven Pladl's lawyer basically said Steven wasn't really doing anything wrong. He was a 40-year-old man in a bad marriage, and this 18-year-old girl just showed up on his doorstep, and what was he to do? And this lawyer also talked about this kind of phenomena, or I don't know what the hell you refer to it as, where people who are biologically related don't know each other through their childhood, meet as adults, and can sometimes have like a sexual attraction to them. But yet again, normal people don't act on those things. But Steven sure as hell did. His lawyer really tried to push that Steven didn't force Katie into this relationship, as though somehow that made it better. Katie not being forced into the relationship, like, that doesn't really make Steven look any better. Steven was 20 years old when he started grooming Alyssa at 15. And then at 40, when he meets his 18-year-old biological daughter, I know I keep saying that, but I feel like I have to keep reminding myself these people are like, this is father and daughter. And after the arrest, Katie moved back in with her adoptive parents, and she would travel twice a week to visit her adoptive grandmother. So finally, we've got Katie in a good place. At least she is now with people who are not abusing her and who love her, like in the normal way. When Katie moved back in with her adoptive parents, she didn't go out a lot. She was home a lot, and probably really kind of trying to deal with and understand what she had been through. One place that Katie did travel to, she would always go with her adoptive father and visit her adoptive grandmother. And when Katie moved back in with her adoptive parents, Steven started stalking her. He would park outside her house and just watch. He would just watch to see if she ever came out of the house. He would just watch if anyone went in the house. He was just stalking her like a friggin' weirdo. He's just stalking his like daughter wife. And it's just like, leave her alone. Like, leave her alone. You've done enough damage at this point. At this point, remove yourself from the situation, because you're not you're not helping. And when Katie and her adoptive father left the house one day to go to visit the grandmother, surveillance video and a witness confirmed that they were fatally shot by Steven Pladl. He pulled up by them, got out of the car, opened fire, and ended both of their lives. But Steven had done something else before he traveled to kill Katie and her adoptive father. I don't think he really cared whether he killed the adoptive father. I think really his goal was to kill Katie, but she happened to be with her father, so I think his intention really was to kill Katie. But before he went and did this, he suffocated their young son, Bennett. Steven's mother, who had temporary custody of the baby Bennett, Steven was not supposed to be allowed to visit the baby, but she very much allowed him to visit the baby whenever he wanted. And I believe he could take the baby and do whatever he wanted. His mother didn't follow whatever the court's rules were. Like, the court's rules were he could have no contact with the baby, but the mother just disregarded that and let him do whatever he wanted. And he'd gone, picked up his son, and suffocated him. And then decided to drive to Katie and do what he did to Katie and her father. And later that day, Steven was found fatally shot at his own hands, and he as well passed away. Before he unalived himself, he had called his mother and confessed what he had done. He called his mother and told her that he had killed Bennett, the son, and Katie and her father. And the mother called 911 saying that her son had called and confessed to what he had done. But by the time the mother called the police and they tried to figure out where he was, everything had already happened. It was already done, and there was no saving anyone at that point. At that point, everyone was gone. And Alyssa, in an interview, stated that she felt like Steven had finished what he had started 20 years earlier with Alyssa, that he had wanted to kill Alyssa, and 20 years later, he was successful in doing that. Alyssa really does struggle to make sense of this, and I think anyone would struggle to make sense of this because it doesn't make any sense. She wanted to get out information, I guess, to the public about this situation because she thought maybe it could help someone else, and hopefully maybe it will. And that, unfortunately, is the end of the story. There's just nothing good to say at the end of it. I hope Alyssa and the other two daughters are doing well and have their privacy and are, hopefully being able to move on with their life. And yeah, it's always hard to end these videos because honestly, what am I supposed to say? I've just sat here and told you this horrible story. Like, how do I end the video? Like, like I can't be dancing. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for putting up with my abnormal ass, and I hope to see you in the next video.